hello guys. It's been a long time. Welcome to episode 33 of Saving Maverick. I'm Matt. This old vessel here that I'm in is Maverick. You all know that by now though. So, you know, life and technology and all the things that one has to deal with in this world kind of got in the way of me getting an episode out. But this one will be the first of many edited, rendered, dealt with on Adobe Premiere Pro video editor, which is probably the most expensive but the best in the industry standard for video editing software. At about 25 bucks a month, it's a bit steep, but to be honest, it's a small price to pay to have stable software that I know is not going to glitch out or crash on me or just generally be a non-functional piece of crap. So I think the quality of this video is going to be up a little bit. This has a lot of features that enable me to do all kinds of special effects, but I still have yet to play around with that. I'm just now getting the basic editing stuff down. Anyway, this episode, all the footage was taken back in early July. It's now August 17th today, as of filming this, and all of this was, I had taken the week off for the 4th of July, and I intended to get starboard aft one frame replaced. It's over a month later. That hasn't happened. But that's the only spoiler I'll give for that. We're not even going to get into the escapades in attempting to steam bin new frames in this episode. That's for the following one. But we're going to go through a lot of stuff here, just getting basically all of the hull work dialed in to the point where we're ready for the hull to accept a new frame. So I think you guys will enjoy it. It's a bit of a long one, but I figured with my absence having been so long that you guys deserved a little extra content. So thanks for sticking around. Thanks for sticking with me. Like, share, subscribe, all that stuff. It really helps with the algorithm. If you're interested, there'll be a link down below to join the Patreon page. That'll help offset the costs of things like paying for the video editing software and just all the other associated costs, because boat work is hard labor. My job is 40 hours a week of hard labor, and this video editing stuff is not hard labor, but it is laborious and takes a lot of time out of my limited time in my week, so any support would be greatly appreciated. Anyway, guys, thanks for being here, thanks for watching, thanks for sticking around, and I hope you enjoy the episode. Random segment here. So it's like 9 o'clock at night, it's a Sunday, but I have next week off, and I'm bored. I'm waiting for a video to export. My video editing software is being a total piece of excrements and not functioning properly, but I won't lament too much about that. I'll just say that I hate electronics because they're great when they work, but when they don't work is always at the most inopportune times, and it always screws you over the most. Anyway, I'm late getting a video out, and this is when this stupid computer decides it's not gonna function. When I need it to function, it won't. This is why I'm gonna learn celestial navigation, because I know the stupid chart plotter's gonna crap out on me when I'm in the middle of a gale headed towards a freaking iceberg or something. I don't trust technology. I love it, it's great, but I don't trust it. Because if it hasn't failed now, it will at some point. Not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Anyway, this is my Mizzen mast step, and I have 4 steel bolts embedded in it, and I need to drive them out, so I'm gonna do that. Enough ranting about computers, I need to do some work. I haven't done anything all day except try to get this stupid video uploaded, and it's 9:25 right now, and hasn't happened yet, so I gotta do something. I gotta hit something with a hammer. If at first you don't succeed, find a bigger hammer. Whoa, she's a tough'n. Yeah, this one's giving me guff shiz. You son of a... we go. No. No. Yes. Yeah. All right, but that's a success. One more little thing ticked off the boat list. All right, guys, it's about noon on Monday, July 1st. I've got the week off from work, and my mission this week is to replace starboard aft one frame. Why do I call this starboard aft one? From here aft, the orientation of the frames, stanchions, and deck beams is frame forward, stanchion middle, deck beam aft. So from here back, so starboard aft one. And then this frame is starboard forward one. And then the same, it'll be the same nomenclature for the port side frames when I get to those. But we're not doing this one quite yet. This is just cut out so I could access the back of the stringer to complete the scarf repairs. So what I have to do is, down on the second broad strake, there is a screw hole that has yet to be filled. So I'm going to tape that over with packing tape on the bottom, fill it with thickened epoxy, get that shored up. Then we're going to fair off all the excess residual epoxy and whatnot from the inside, get that all cleaned up, ready to take paint and Sikaflex and all that. Then we have to clean up the stringer. We've got a lot of epoxy squeeze out up top and down below. There's also this part of the scarf was sticking down. They never really leveled it off at the bottom of the piece. So that'll have to be sanded and faired down too. So we'll get that all cleaned up, ready to take paint. I'm gonna mix up a gallon of red primer. Ooh, I know, ooh, red primer. Well, everything on our world is toxic. A little bit of lead ain't gonna hurt anyone, especially when you're using proper PPE. Anyway, so we'll make that, we'll slap a couple coats of primer on the outboard face of this part of the stringer, top and bottom as well. Get that nice and protected. And then, oh yes, we need to remove, so you can see I've already pulled the cotton caulking out of the seams most of the way down. There's a couple seams down below the water line that have to be reefed out. And that's just so we don't get paint and adhesive and stuff into the cotton and anchor it in place, because this whole boat's gonna get recaulked anyway. So, and what else do I have to do? Oh yes, finish the stanchion. So the stanchion is pretty well roughed out. I just got to get the interior face of the stanchion to where I want it, because these first three planks are going to get mostly completely replaced. So I'll be able to fair out all of the stanchions and frames and everything once they're all replaced and all of this wood is gone. So that's what we're looking at this week. If I get that done and get to more stuff, that's great too. But for right now, that's my plan, that's my mission. So let's get to it. All right, here's our beam shelf. So what I'm gonna do, this is made from fir. I have old steel nails or iron nails embedded in here. That's what the stanchion goes onto. So what I wanna do is I wanna cut little filler pieces. And I have fir that I've been using to make fillers for the planks, so that'll work out great. So what I'm gonna do is take my square, and I wanna make them, they're gonna be square but oriented in a diamond shape. That kind of orientated properly. They're gonna be 1 inch square. There's one of them. we go. Now I'll do that with this one, and I'll catch up with you when I'm done. All right, we got through this one and this one, so we're ready to cut the filler blocks. It's interesting. This is a forged steel or iron square nail. Was this boat built in 1862 or 1962? Because this is old school stuff right here. You find these in like 200-year-old houses. Weird. This steam box stand is pretty nice. It's like having a little workbench outside by the boat. All right, my blocks fabricated up, and we'll go back up and offer them up to the beam shelf. All right, I had to go kiss these up in the disc sander a little bit. They're a little bit oversized. Oh, and the reason I'm doing this instead of just gouging the screws out and backfilling with epoxy is because the bronze screws that I'm going to anchor the stanchions into the beam shelf with are going to go into this section, so I want wood for them to bite into instead of just epoxy. All right, so I'll do that with the next one, and I'll catch you when I'm done. So these are both fit. Gonna mix up some epoxy. We got the screw hole down below that we're gonna be covering with tape. All right, so I have all my epoxy stuff here. I got the high performance slow hardening one this time. A little more expensive, but it's advertised as having a little bit more flex, which is better for these wooden boats. So as usual, we're gonna prime with unthickened and fill with thickened later. It is friggin' windy today. And so on both of these, there are holes that go all the way through, so I will take the packing tape and tape over behind. Let's go prime up that screw hole we need to fill down below. That's that right there. So we're gonna go ahead, squeeze some unthickened up in there. A little bit of voidage around there. Get that souped up, and I'll get a couple pieces of packing tape. Poor man's peel ply. So first of all, I'm just gonna do that, get a little bit more in there, but you don't need to see that. These holes right here, I'm just gonna get a little bit of unthickened in there and put some po' boy peel ply over the top. So I got one piece of tape here, and I put the other one here. It'll act as a barrier, so you go up against. And yeah, so let me take this and take you, and we'll go back down below, thicken this up, put the thickened epoxy in the holes with the filler pieces, and then come back around and we'll fill that screw hole down below. Okay, let's go. Right here. Hopefully the wind doesn't take it away. Man, it is windy today. Kind of crazy. right, back up and over. We might need to put a little bit more oh boy peel ply. Let's get this one filled. I don't know what I would do if I had fiberglass boat. All epoxy all the time. That is good enough. All right, it's a little while later. This slow cure epoxy is still tacky, which is nice. I like slow cure epoxy. I don't like this fast curing crap. So we are gonna mix some more up, and we're gonna put some in a Ziploc baggie and inject it into areas that didn't fill out on the inside. And we're just gonna do straight up thickened. Mix it up, thicken it, put it in the baggie. A little bit more silica. It's probably a more precise way to do this, but it's unbeknownst to me, and this way has been working fine thus far, so it's not like this project is my first go around with epoxy anyway. Yeah, I know you can get those pastry frosting bags and stuff, but I think store brand Ziploc bags are probably cheaper than that. Cut a little slit off the baggie. Oh boy, peel ply to the rescue. All right, guys. Well, we're waiting on epoxy to cure on the Beamshelf and on various things on the inside of the boat and on that screw hole through the second broad strake. I'm going to go ahead and fire up the angle grinder with a 40-degree flap wheel and go ahead and get a lot of this residual epoxy faired off so that we can be ready to accept frames from the outside. So let's get to it. All right, fair off residual epoxy outside. Boom. All right, guys, so it's the next day, beautiful sunny day. I have to get all this residual epoxy just kind of sanded down flush with the wood. I've got my replacement stanchion for right here, and that'll go something like that. I'll be cutting it off at the base where it intersects with the bottom of the stringer. I just have to do a little fitting, but I can't really do that in earnest until I get the residual epoxy off of the beam shelf and the string. I also have to sand down residual epoxy down below where I did that repair yesterday for that screw hole, and I got to go inside the hull or inside the boat and clean up the top and bottom of the stringer here, and as well as the inside face of the planks where all the repairs are. So we'll start with down there, go to there, go up inside, and do the rest. All right. All right. So that bit of sanding's done. While I'm down here, I have to go get my reefing hook and finish getting the cotton out of this seam, get it out of this one, this one, this one, and this one. I should have done this at first, but I forgot, to be perfectly honest with you. So, all right, guys, got my reefing hook. And for those of you who might be new here and didn't see the video where I first used this thing, let me explain what this is. This is a hook. That's used to pull the cotton caulking out of the seams of a boat. So this is something that I fabricated. Regrettably, I didn't get any video on making it. But what I did was I got a 1/8 inch thick by 2 inch wide by 1 foot long piece of, I think it was A1 tool steel or something like that. And then I just marked out a shape, kind of pattern after one of these that was probably a century or more old that I used when I worked at the boatyard briefly down in Orleans. And I just made the whole shape, made it full tang so you get all that material support, shaped it, sharpened the face here, and then heat treated it by heating it up to a straw color and quenching it in just common canola cooking oil. Yeah, and then I had some of this very like curly white oak wood that was just a slat from a pallet, and just shaped handles and put brass rivets through, 3 of them. Got a lanyard loop here, made a leather lanyard, and boom, nice reefing hook. So we need to do this seam, and this seam. And we're just pulling it out of the area that we're working in. This whole boat's gonna get reefed and then recocked once all the structural repairs are done. But we're just taking the cotton out little by little as we go along with reframing. So let's get to it. Should have done this before. Looks like we have a gap in the caulking here. Got some in this seam here. Gonna use our rivet demo piece as a hammer. That shoit is in there. What a pain in the ass. This seam is extremely tight. That's normally a good thing, except when you're completely rebuilding a boat. So you have to be all the way up there under the cotton. There we go. Ah, she's a-coming. That's enough of that one for now. Bent my freaking reefing hook. Okay. I succeeded in getting crap in my eyes too. Alright, let's go fair up the beam shelf in the stringer a little bit. So in this stanchion, it's touching right here at the top of the beam.
That's good. So all we need to do is cut this off at the bottom of the stringer and then just kind of fair this surface down to get that kind of flush up with this. And then I can fair out the top later once I get the rest in and I'm going to be putting the boards on.
Alright, so the poor man's peel ply works excellently. We got a nice smooth finish on those fills. Same with down here on that screw hole. So what we've got to do is just get all this excess epoxy cleaned up. And then this should be prepped for a new frame. Alright, we get set up, we'll get to it. Alright, so first and foremost, let's get the top and bottom of this stringer cleaned up, prepped for primer. And then we'll get the inside of the repaired planks done. Got a sanding pad with 6 grit paper on it for this, which should get up in there fairly decently.
That ain't gonna work. Hit this with the random orbiter real quick.
Alrighty, so inside of the hull here is faired. We got all the seams reefed out right behind where we're going to be working on the new frame. This is all cleaned out, gave it a quick vacuum. I'm going to wipe everything down with a coat of denatured alcohol before I go and prime this and put any Sikaflex in. I got the stringer cleaned up as much as I can and or care to do so. Again, that stringer, once the whole boat is reassembled, and there'll be a cabinet right there. You'll never see it unless you open the doors of the cabinet to look in. And even then, it's not an issue as long as it's strong and good enough. That's all that matters. So now, let's go look at the list. All right. Sorry for the horrible handwriting. Fair internal plank repairs. Done. Clean up stringer. Done. Remove alt caulk. Done. Finish stanchion. Getting close. We got a lop off the end here. But this isn't really terribly important. I just want to get this roughed out to go because fastening this in requires a deck beam, which this deck beam, they're all pretty dead because they all got the steel bolts through them and they're oak. Good news is a lot of that white oak pallet wood that I have is exactly the right size for these half deck beams. So what do we have left? Make primer. Should we go make some primer? I'd say so. And we'll cut the end off of this too when we're down there. So I'm actually thinking that this wood might not actually be oak. It might be white ash. But same difference. Ash is a perfectly suitable boat wood. Nice, hard, closed grain wood with good rot resistance kit. Give her a wee chamfer. Alright, set this aside, go offer it up to the boat. Also, these pieces here that were that test piece for the steam box, we're gonna use these as battens to hold the new frames in. So these will wedge the new frame against the old frames. We'll drill and countersink and just run screws down through this into the old frames. All right, let me get this workbench cleaned up and we'll make some primer. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna weigh out the powder in the cup. And obviously I'm gonna tear it off for the weight of the cup. 4 pounds I'm gonna put in here, roughly, give or take. And then I'm going to wet it down with turpentine stir it up, make a slurry, and then we'll put that slurry in the paint can, fill it the rest of the way up with boiled linseed oil, seal the lid, shake the crap out of it, then we'll have primer. All right. Now this wouldn't really be necessary, but George Kirby decided that they weren't gonna sell this anymore. I guess a company out in Ohio still makes it, but it's like $200 a can, which is kind of ridiculous. It's gonna be a lot cheaper to make my own. And by the way, this is not like an official recipe. This is kind of meeting in the middle what other people have done. A lot of people, some recipes call for like 20 pounds of the stuff per gallon, which I think is freaking ridiculous. I think 4 pounds is a happy medium. Some do less, some do more. I'm gonna get safetied up. Goggles, respirator, rubber gloves, because I don't want this stuff on my skin or in my lungs or eyes. So, let me do that, set the camera up, and we'll get mixing.
Alright, so we have a full container here, so I think we're just going to dump this in the paint can. Turpentine.
All right, let's add some oil to it. I might have to get one of those paint mixing things. All right. I gotta run to the hardware store, get one of those paint mixer thingies, and a paintbrush specifically for this stuff, because I want to get all that incorporated in there. It's a little bit sludgy down at the bottom, but not bad. What's up? All right, guys. So I have a full face shield, denatured alcohol, a rag, paintbrushes. I've got my can of ye old-timey primer down there. And I have a mixer. And the drill is up there. Right now, there's a denatured alcohol in the rag, and we're going to wipe down all the areas that are going to be primed. Let's do it. All right, so in here we're going to take our ye old-timey primer. We're going to paint the stringer. We're going to paint the recess that the frame sits in on the keel. And we're going to paint all the way up everything that's been repaired here. We're going to skip the garboard and skip this plank right here where we're going to replace the butt joint with a scarf. And yeah, so now we'll just let that alcohol dry up a bit, and then we'll go outside and mix up. Well, it's already mixed up, but we just gotta We just gotta immersion blend it a bit just to, there's a bit of grit. I just want to try to get it all fully incorporated. So let's do it. All right, I'd say that's good enough for my purposes, so let's get painting. All right, guys, we'll let this dry. It's actually drying pretty quick. I know for a fact that the old-timey boat primer pigment is kind of like a wicking agent, so it's gonna get this to dry and kick off pretty quick. So I'm gonna get out of here, let this dry, and I'll catch you on the next thing. All right, my friends. So we're gonna let this dry overnight. And so my thoughts about this ye old-timey primer. It's not so much a paint as it is a preservative wood treatment. Because the components, just the pigment, the turpentine, and the linseed oil, mean it'll penetrate into the wood, and that pigment being the active ingredient that rot doesn't like, that also penetrates the wood and gives it a good protective barrier that the surface of the wood is impregnated with to stop all the nasties that befoul boats like this. But anyway, we got the fan on. We'll let this dry overnight, and I guess tonight I'll get the steam box set up and ready to go. I filled 2 propane tanks, so we should be good to go for fuel to heat up the steam. And yeah. So, see ya on the steam box setup. Alright guys, well I hope you enjoyed the episode. Thanks for sticking around through all of it. It was a bit long, but I tried my best to make sure everything was nice and engaging. So if you enjoyed the video, go ahead and click that like button down below. If you're not already subscribed, go ahead and click that subscribe button and the little bell next to it to get notified every time I post new content. If you're interested in helping to offset the cost of things like video editing software, tools, wood, $12 a board foot at my local lumber yard for white oak slabs. So anyway, stay tuned for next week's episode, which will have to do with this here. As you can see, it's mid-August. All of the coming footage will have been filmed in July, and there's no frame here. So you guys stay tuned for next week. You'll get to see my trials and tribulations with attempting steam bending. And, well, we'll leave that for the next episode. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks for sticking around, and see you guys next time.